Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome and thank you for joining the study overview of the Regulatory Alignment Project that we are kicking off. I'm going to start off by introducing Undersecretary Christine Birdsong to provide a few words.
Thank you, and thank you to all of you who joined us today to learn more about our Regulatory Alignment Project. The California Department of Food and Ag, Cal EPA, and our State Water Resources Control Board are all partnering on this multi-year study. And we are working with our consultants, Crowe, to find ways that we can come into alignment and really improve reporting processes within the areas of food safety and water quality. We call this regulatory alignment, but I want to be clear at the outset that this exercise is not about changing the regulations that our stakeholders have to comply with, but we are very focused on the reporting aspect, as we have heard loud and clear that the reporting itself is what is so time consuming and really labor intensive. So the study is looking at Ag's food safety and water quality regulatory reporting requirements and possible ways that we can streamline the administrative processes and also to optimize the information that's collected by the state. Our goal is to provide a roadmap for process improvements to reduce this regulatory reporting burden for our farmers, particularly for our small and medium scale farmers and our historically underserved farmers who are often less well resourced and so can't outsource these administrative aspects of running a farm. So today's informational webinar is going to be presented by Crowe, and they're going to talk about the study's objectives, milestones, and also importantly, opportunities for stakeholders to engage and to offer feedback. So if you are interested, if this study is relevant to you, please do stay involved. Crowe will show how best to stay engaged and how to make sure you are updated at every step of this process. So I want to thank you all again for attending today's webinar, and we look forward to hearing from you all throughout the study. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. It was a great welcome and overview of the study. So starting out, we just have a few sort of housekeeping issues. We are going to have time at the end of the session to answer your questions. So please enter those in the Q&A box, and we will get to them after we've gone through the presentation. Okay, I'd first like to introduce our team. So Crowe LLP is a national consulting and accounting company. We have a strong presence in Sacramento and have been supporting state departments, agencies, and boards for over 30 years. We provide a range of services, including program and regulatory evaluations, performance improvement, stakeholder outreach, and technology innovations. So I'm a managing director with Crowe. I'm serving as a project manager along with Tommy Abeda, and then we have several team members as identified here. We are pleased to be partnering with Blankenship & Associates Incorporated, and Blankenship & Associates is an agricultural and environmental science and engineering firm based in Davis, California, and have been supporting the agricultural community for over 20 years. And we have a large number of team members here led by Mike Blankenship. And as mentioned earlier, this is a coordinated effort between CDFA, the water boards, and Cal EPA. So we are working closely with the project team. Our CDFA team members are Carla Sanchez and Sam Blacklock, and then Brianna St. Pierre from the water boards and Katie Landau from Cal EPA. So today we are going to talk through the study background, a little bit of overview of how we got to this point, walk through the 5 study objectives, and then we will talk about study milestones and how to stay involved in sort of next steps. And we'll follow up with the Q&A session. So for background, I think there's been really a growing awareness over the last several years of the regulatory compliance pressures that the agricultural industry in California faces, and in particular looking at reporting and record-keeping requirements related to food safety and water quality. And some of these were compounded by impacts related to COVID. I think that was one of the early drivers of this study. So that really the focus is, as Christine mentioned, on looking at ways of improving reporting and compliance and ease of reporting and compliance for the agricultural community, providing some streamlining and better information sharing between the departments. Next slide talks a little bit more about the study itself. And so CDFA was granted general fund funding and contracted with Crow and the Blankenship team in November of last year. So we've been really kind of kicking off this year over the last few months to identify opportunities for regulatory alignment and improved reporting that would reduce the cost of reporting and compliance, but also ensuring environmental and public health protections. So as Christine mentioned, we're not looking at changing the regulations, but in streamlining and aligning. So the target is by 2025, this is a 3-year effort, that we will provide CDFA, Cal EPA, and the water boards with the proposed implementation plan, along with technological enhancement recommendations that decrease the number of touch points for producers to achieve regulatory compliance. And then, as I mentioned, increase information sharing. And I'll say that technological enhancements may not necessarily mean, it could be broadly defined as what is supportive for one group of farmers may not be a supportive or an enhancement for another. So we're definitely keeping in mind the potential impacts on the small and underserved farming community. So the study objectives, again, the goal is to identify the transformative opportunities for regulatory alignment and improved reporting processes. I think a theme we keep hearing, but also looking at reducing the cost of compliance and reporting for farmers and ranchers while maintaining environmental and public health protections. So there are 5 study objectives that were identified as we began this study back last fall. I'm just going to talk through each one of these. They're very closely aligned with our tasks and our work plan. So the first is to evaluate state regulatory requirements within the areas of water quality and food safety for the agricultural community and to identify environmental and public health protections. The second is to conduct listening sessions to gather input from the agricultural community related to their experiences with the reporting requirements and processes in these areas, being water quality and food safety. And then once we've gone through this process, to convene the agricultural community and regulators to review and map the existing regulatory pathways for water quality and food safety, and then identifying opportunities for improved efficiency and information sharing. The fourth objective is to identify and prepare implementation plans for those recommended process improvements that will streamline reporting. And then finally, to provide recommendations to CDFA, Cal EPA, and the State Water Board for technological enhancements to ease the administrative burden on the agricultural community. I want to talk for a moment about what we mean by agricultural community, and that's something we are defining very broadly. I think it's important to recognize the diversity of the state's agricultural community, and that's going to be an important part of meeting the study objectives. And so for purposes of this study, we are using the term agricultural community to really account for the full spectrum of stakeholders that could be impacted by the study. So that includes, but is not limited to, producers, farmers, ranchers, dischargers, growers, food processors, coalitions, associations, environmental groups, environmental justice groups, health advocates, and others. So if we've missed you on this list, that is not intentional, and really we are urging the participation of everybody and anybody who has an interest in this study topic. So this slide looks at the regulatory landscape and scope of the study, and we are certainly aware that there are many other areas of regulation that are causing challenges for the agricultural community. It's kind of shown in the blue boxes here. But the focus of this study is specifically on food safety and water quality. So that's where we're looking at the alignment and the reporting and the streamlining efforts. I want to walk through the specific regulations that we're looking at. So for food safety, excuse me, the requirements that are in the scope of the study are related to the Produce Safety Program and FSMA, the Food Safety Modernization Act, that CDFA implements on behalf of the US FDA. So here the focus is specifically on the produce safety rule, and the various subparts are listed here. The agricultural water is still in a proposed rule status, but that is part of our study scope as it is finalized here, hopefully in the near future. On the water quality side, there's a little bit longer list of programs. So we are looking at the Irrigated Lands Regulatory Program, and within that, the Drinking Well Water Monitoring Program. We're looking at CV salts, the Central Valley Salinity Alternatives for Long-Term Sustainability. Also looking at the Confined Animal Facility Concentrated Animal Feeding Operations, so CAF and CAFO, and within that, dairy orders. We're looking at the Stormwater Program and Industrial General Permit as it relates to agriculture specifically, and then looking at the state and regional winery programs. There are a few other areas that we're looking at, and these are not regulatory programs, but they are related and kind of associated overlap with the programs that we just identified. So those are the California Leafy Greens Products Handler Marketing Agreement, LGMA, the California Cantaloupe Advisory Board, CCAB, and then the CDFA's Fertilizer Research and Education Program. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Tommy Abeyta to talk about stakeholder outreach and involvement.
Thanks, Wendy. As mentioned, one of the key objectives is to listen and learn from the agricultural community. Crow and the Blankenship teams really want to hear about your experiences related to the various requirements and the programs that Wendy just described. So as far as next steps within this study, we'll be coordinating with CDFA, Cal EPA, and the water boards to really conduct a comprehensive outreach effort. And we'll be sure to notify all parties in advance to the extent that we can, either through the website, through other mechanisms on how to participate throughout the study. For reference, really want to highlight some key upcoming milestones, which include this informational session. Please feel free to pass this information along to others that may be interested in participating. We will be sharing this presentation along with other information related to what we presented on the study's website. Additionally, throughout this summer, we plan to conduct listening sessions, and really the objective of those sessions, as I mentioned, is to gather input from the community relating to their experiences within the reporting requirements and the processes that we just discussed, specifically within the areas of food safety and water quality. After that, within winter and the spring timeframe, we will be conducting workshops, and those workshops will be more of working sessions with CDFA, Cal EPA, water boards, and interested stakeholders to really review and provide some meaningful feedback on the conceptual map paths. In other words, opportunities for improved alignment of water quality and food safety regulations that are really at the heart of this study. Over the next couple of slides, I will be summarizing key study milestones. Currently, we are in the first milestone. Crow is currently evaluating on a preliminary basis the regulatory requirements that are under the scope of the study. We are identifying and documenting and mapping, to the extent that we can, the existing and pending regulatory requirements, which includes both the reporting and compliant processes within both food safety and water quality regulatory programs and requirements. As mentioned, as a next step during the summer, we want to conduct stakeholder listening sessions. Really, the focus of those would be to listen and learn and gather the experiences related to the reporting requirements and processes within the areas of food safety and water quality. As we kind of highlighted earlier, we're really interested in listening and learning from all members of the agricultural community, so the full spectrum. Based upon what we listen and learn from the listening sessions in the fall and winter, we will be preparing an interim report on regulatory alignment, which will provide a detailed overview of the key challenges and opportunities for streamlining with regard to the food safety and water quality regulatory reporting and compliance processes that we will be evaluating as part of this study. In 2024, we plan to reconvene both CDFA, Cal EPA, and Water Board staff with members of the community. And really, as mentioned, we want to conduct workshops to review the conceptual opportunities and map paths for improved alignment for food safety and water quality regulatory reporting requirements or compliance areas. And again, the objective really is to identify opportunities that will make a productive and meaningful impact to improve efficiencies and information sharing between agencies. After that, we want to identify and confirm the potential process improvements and also highlight implementation steps to implement those process improvements. Lastly, within the fall, we will then evaluate and recommend potential technological enhancements. As Wendy mentioned, when we mean by what we mean by technological enhancements, it's really at this point a broad category of potential enhancements we may eventually recommend. At this point, this is the term that we're using as part of really the scope of our study, but really the objective is to identify recommendations that ease the burden on both industry and regulators. So overall, we're working towards this last final milestone where we will prepare solutions and an overall recommended implementation plan. We will be sure to prepare and present the information that we've learned from this study to both CDFA, Cal EPA, and water boards, but really share the information that we have highlighted and will be recommending to the agricultural community. Really, the objective of this last final phase or milestone is to highlight the lessons we learned, the key challenges, opportunities, the process improvements, the opportunities, which may include related technological and solutions. For example, data system improvements or other IT systems or other processes that we identified throughout the process. As mentioned, really we're interested in listening and learning from you all. So we highly encourage you to share information about the study and to stay involved throughout the process. This is going to be a multi-year engagement, and so we'll be highlighting updates throughout the course of the study on the Regulatory Alignment Study webpage, which we note on this slide. Again, we highly encourage all that can to participate in listening sessions to be held this summer. We're really learning that some may not be available during the summer, but really there's other opportunities throughout the course of the summer to either meet with the CROW team or to conduct in other forums or to participate in other forums to share information related to your experiences. We're interested in listening and learning to all that want to participate. Another opportunity to stay involved would be to review the public reports and then to attend public presentations. As mentioned, we will be presenting and releasing a preliminary report as part of this study, and then also releasing a final report, which will summarize the ultimate recommendations that result from the study. Last but not least, just want to highlight that if you do have questions or feedback throughout the course of the study, please feel free to email the email address that we display on this presentation. This is going to be our single point of contact throughout the study. And so we highly encourage you to jot this down and to share this with others so that if you do want to reach out to the team, this is probably the best way to do so at this time. With that being said, we have a little bit of time for questions. And so if you do have questions at this time, please feel free to enter those in the Q&A box, and we will be responding as they come up in the box.
We do have one question. I will go ahead and read and answer. So the first objective appears to lend itself to reducing reporting requirements, which is counter to what I heard in the opening comments. So again, the first objective is to evaluate state regulatory requirements within the areas of water quality and food safety for the agricultural community and identify environmental and public health protections. And I think Christy mentioned at the beginning that we are not talking about changing regulations. And I think maybe that was what was meant by the question, and that is the case. But we have spent these last several months really understanding the requirements and sort of the diverse range of requirements and the regulatory structure in food safety and water quality. So that's the evaluation part, is identifying and understanding, and we've been mapping process flows and identifying challenges. So that's the focus. We are and will be looking at reporting streamlining, where there may be opportunities where the same information is being reported to the water boards and to CDFA, that there may be some streamlining opportunities there. So we're sort of open slate on that end. So hopefully that answers your question.
I can read off the next one. The next question is, how do you anticipate involving consultants who complete a lot of the reporting for several programs for various types of entities, such as water quality coalitions? That's an excellent question. As part of our evaluation phase, we really have been learning that the water quality coalitions do play an integral part within the regulatory framework. And so we have been meeting with and will be meeting with water quality coalition groups, in addition to working with members of the community to identify those that they work through in order to comply with the various water quality permitting orders. And so that's really how we plan to integrate with them. And certainly we are interested in meeting with members of the community that really rely on the coalitions to comply with the various regulations. So hope that answers your question. I will read off the next one. So the next question is, will the study be identifying contradictory mandates between water quality and food safety regulations? As far as that question goes, I think that's probably a TBD. I think really what we're trying to meet are the core objectives and really highlighting streamlining opportunities. So that's really the objective of the study, which may include some overlap or redundancies or duplications of efforts from a reporting and compliance standpoint.
Want me to answer the next question?
Sure.
The next question is, will the use of recycled water in agriculture be a part of this study? And I think I would say here, to the extent that the use of recycled water is covered under either the new subpart E of FSMA, Produce Safety Rule, or ILRP, or any of the other water quality regulations, then yes, it would be. The next question is also a challenging TBD. If reporting streamlining would require regulatory changes, i.e. reopening an order, would that be something that would be recommended, or would anything that would be anything that would require changes to an existing order be off the table. So we're going to be documenting what we hear from stakeholders. That's again, not part of our focus, is not recommending regulation changes and changes to the orders, but at the same time, we will be monitoring and tracking what we're hearing from stakeholders. So. At this point, I don't see any other questions, but please, we'll give you another minute or two to type in your questions. Oh, there is one. I am a new team member in compliance and enforcement in ILRP. Sue McConnell let me know the study has spoken to our group's management. Will the study be talking to us more as it goes on? Absolutely, yes. We did do some initial sort of interviews with Water Board and CDFA regulators, but that will be part of an ongoing process. And as Tommy outlined, that a little bit later there'll be a more comprehensive reconvening of regulators and ag industry, but we'll be reaching out throughout as we have questions and want to understand more.
I can answer the next one. This is the easy one. Will this recording be posted? Yes.
And emailed out, I think it will be available on the webpage that was on the slide, the last slide, but not necessarily mailed out. You could go to that webpage, and I would bookmark that with that webpage and check it regularly. And I think it does take sometimes a couple days to get the recording back from Zoom. Yeah, we can back up the slides.
Yes, we got a question on, can you provide the web page? So thanks, Jamie. The web page is the first bullet. Any other questions?
And if you do have other questions, please submit them to the regulatory alignment study at cdfa.ca.gov email, and we will be answering them there either directly or through a Q&A that we post. And again, please check that website regularly for updates throughout this process, and we look forward to conducting the listening sessions with you all this summer. Thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate your attention to this.